Welcome back to the deep dive. I'm so glad you've joined us for what promises to be, well, quite an extraordinary journey today. We're embarking on an exploration into the truly labyrinthine world of James Joyce. And specifically, we're cracking open pages 15-18 of Chapter 1 of Finnegans Wake. Now, for those of you following along with the fantastic Reading Finnegans Wake in 200 Sessions podcast, this is their episode 5, and we're sort of building on that incredible work they've done. These few pages present a really bizarre and brilliant dialogue between two figures known only as Mutt and Jute. Our mission, as always, is to navigate this intricate linguistic landscape, extracting the most vital nuggets of knowledge and surprising insights from the rich sources you've shared with us. Think of it as maybe your shortcut to being well-informed on this remarkable, challenging, and, well, endlessly rewarding piece of literature.
And what a journey it promises to be. You're right. These particular pages, while they might initially appear quite dense, really impenetrable even, they're actually a phenomenal microcosm of the entire Wake. They're absolutely bursting with historical allusions, astonishing linguistic play, and, profound philosophical undercurrents.
Wow.
This encounter between Mutt and Jute isn't just a scene, it's really a foundational moment laying the groundwork for so much of the thematic and narrative complexity that unfolds throughout the rest of the book. We'll be tracing connections from, ancient battles and primeval humans, all the way to the very nature of storytelling and communication itself. And we're going to pay special attention, as you mentioned, to one particularly evocative line that, for me, really encapsulates the countless narratives that shape our shared past. It's quite something.
That sounds absolutely incredible. I'm already fascinated by the sheer scope. So get ready to stretch your mind with us.
Let's unpack this.
Okay, let's dive straight into the heart of it then. This strange encounter between Mutt and Jute. What kind of picture that the sources paint of these two figures when we first meet them? What's immediately happening on the page? It feels so primal, almost.
That's a perfect way to put it. Primal. What's truly fascinating here is how Joyce immediately, transports us to this prehistoric setting. Mutt and Jute are presented quite vividly as, Stone Age men, engaging in what one of our sources aptly calls a plebeian discourse.
Plebeian discourse, right?
Yeah, which implies, a crude, unsophisticated conversation. But this is far from a simple chat. It's a symbolic confrontation, a kind of primal foundational clash that anticipates many of the more violent encounters and antagonisms we find later in the Wake. These two figures aren't just themselves, they're stand-ins for the Wake's central antagonists, Shem and Sean.
Ah, okay. Shem and Sean.
Exactly. And even the overarching figures of HCE and his numerous enemies, it's an immediate signal that this is about archetypes, not just individuals.
Oh, got it. So tell us about Mutt's first view of Jute. It sounds quite detailed.
It really is. Mutt's initial observation of Jute is striking. He sees a Carl on the copy in pelted thongs.
A Carl on the copy?
Yeah. The term Carl is loaded here. It immediately suggests a churl, a rude, uneducated, even boorish fellow. It paints Jute as someone rough around the edges, maybe lower status, a peasant type, not nobility.
Okay.
And Kabji, this is a fascinating detail. It's an African's word for a small hill or rocky outcrop.
Africanans. Wow.
Yeah. So it literally places Jute on this small elevated spot, isolated, maybe vigilant, dressed in primitive animal pelts. But beyond the literal, Kapyi also evokes geological layers, deep time,
layers,
and maybe even hints at the South African Boer War, where the term became widely known in Britain. So it subtly brings more modern historical conflict into this ancient scene.
That's incredible layering already. So he's presented as this almost wild, ancient figure, both physically and in his location. What about the rest of Jute's description? It sounds quite grotesque.
It absolutely is. Grotesque is a good word.
Right.
Jute is described with foreshapen his pig-made hog's head, shrink his plod's foot. Foreshapen means transformed or misshapen, implying a somewhat deformed, diminutive figure with a large, perhaps disfigured head, a hog's head, and shrunken feet. Now, one of our sources draws a fascinating connection here to Joe Biggar.
Joe Biggar?
Yeah, a 19th century Irish nationalist politician who was known for his small stature and a pronounced hunchback.
No kidding.
Yeah. So right from the start, Joyce is subtly weaving in specific Irish historical figures into this primeval encounter, blurring the lines between myth and history. It's typical Joyce, but it gets even more archaic. He has locktoes and mama muscles, most mysterious.
Mysterious.
Yeah, mysterious, which strongly suggests a Neanderthal man, specifically what's known as Mousterian man, referring to a Middle Paleolithic archaeological industry.
So really deep prehistory.
Exactly. This choice of language roots this encounter firmly in truly ancient prehistoric times, emphasizing the deep evolutionary origins of human conflict and interaction.
And then there's this rather shocking image. Slicking mention out of something's brain pan. That's pretty graphic.
It is, isn't it? And it's intentionally so. Slaking mention, meaning drinking lunch, out of something's brain pan or a skull.
Yikes.
It immediately brings to mind very ancient, almost barbaric customs, perhaps Viking rituals or primeval acts of conquest. It's a stark, almost monstrous image that sets a very raw, violent tone for the encounter. It actually echoes a similar image in Ulysses in the Cyclops episode, where there's mention of a loving cup of first-shot esquibot from the skull of his immediate predecessor.
Okay. So it's a recurring theme for Joyce.
Seems so. It's a powerful symbol of domination, of consuming the past, and a rather visceral suggestion of the brutal origins of human power dynamics. And jute is further identified as comestible saxem.
Comestible saxem. Okay, break that down for us.
Right. This name, as is typical with Joyce, is a brilliant blend of multiple meanings. Comestible implies comestible, meaning food, and tipple, for drink.
Food and drink, basic needs.
Exactly. So immediately we get a sense of Jute's crude, fundamental appetites, but it also carries an echo of Constable Sackerson.
Who's that?
A famous captive bear kept near the Globe Theatre in Shakespeare's time, often depicted as drunk. Adds a layer of the grotesque, maybe slightly comical.
A drunken bear. Okay.
And the Saxon part overtly points to a Saxon, one of the Germanic tribes that famously invaded Britain in the 5th and 6th centuries.
Right, the Saxons. Invaders.
Exactly. So in one name, Joyce positions Jute as this primal figure driven by basic needs, a historical invader, and something almost animalistic, maybe even a bit ridiculous.
Wow, that is a lot packed into one name. So he's not just primitive, he's also positioned as an outsider, an invader, right from the get-go.
Precisely. And he's described as allamonths on the keep faith by, meaning he's almost on the qui-vive, on the lookout, vigilant.
On the lookout.
Perhaps defending his fief or land. This connects to Vico's discussions in Roman history about the concept of fiefs as estates of land.
Vico again. Interesting.
Yes. So Jute is presented as this primal, foreign figure, crude in his appetites, vigilant, and holding a claim to the land-all elements that set the stage for deep-seated conflict. Mutt's overall assessment is that Jute is a quarry, sort of a mahan, a queer, strange kind of man.
The strange man.
And this even links to the idea of the knocker at HCE's gate, suggesting Jute might be a challenging, disruptive presence, an antagonist to the very foundations of the Wake's central figure, HCE.
It's clear that from this very first description, Joyce wants us to see Jute as both ancient and deeply symbolic of recurring historical patterns, like invasion and conflict.
Absolutely.
And I love that detail you mentioned earlier from the sources about hat swapping implying role reversal. It seems to underscore that fluidity of identity which is so central to the Wake, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That's a crucial point. The idea of hat swapping, according to one of our sources, is a subtle but potent hint at the inherent role reversal and mix-up of names that is absolutely central to the Wake.
Right. Identities are never fixed.
Never. Identities are fluid, characters can embody multiple historical and mythical figures, perspectives constantly shift. So even from this initial meeting, we see the seeds of the Wake's inherent ambiguity and its playful reordering of established narratives.
It's a warning almost. Don't expect things to stay simple.
Exactly. It's a crucial insight that tells us not to expect straightforward identities or fixed roles in this book. Everything is in flux, and everyone can, in a sense, swap hats.
That's a perfect encapsulation of the way Joyce plays with identity. Okay, so this initial description is so vivid and layered, but then the dialogue itself starts. And it's immediately clear these two are having, well, a tough time communicating. It's almost like a linguistic obstacle course.
It really is. And that's deliberate, of course. The very act of communication, or more precisely, the failure of it, becomes a central, profound theme right away.
The failure of communication.
Yes. It highlights the fragmented nature of history, of understanding even of our own identities. Mutt tries to figure out who Jute is and where he's from through a series of questions that immediately hit this profound language barrier. But in doing so, it also introduces one of the Wake's most significant and deeply poignant motifs: stuttering.
Stuttering.
Okay.
Let's look at Mutt's questions first. What's he asking?
Right. Mutt's questions are direct attempts to place Jute culturally and geographically, trying to find some shared linguistic ground. He asks if Jute speaks Danish, taler det gansk, Norwegian, tolkatifskawegian, English, spaghetti angles, or Saxon, phoneo-Saxo.
So basically, what language do you speak?
Pretty much. But Jute's replies are uniformly simple, emphatic, and almost primal. N, N.
Just N, getting longer each time.
Exactly. Each additional N only emphasizes his utter incomprehension, suggesting a primitive, guttural form of speech, a raw, elemental sound that maybe predates complex language.
So it's not just that they speak different languages. It's almost like Jute is at an earlier stage of linguistic development, or just completely shut off.
Precisely. Or maybe both. And within those linguistic tests, Joyce embeds some fascinating details. For instance, spiggity for English.
Yeah, where does that come from?
Well, it isn't just a random word. It's apparently a slang term from Panama, meaning not speaking English.
From Panama? How random is that?
Isn't it? It adds yet another layer to the communication breakdown, drawing on unexpected global connections for a text so deeply rooted in Dublin. It's a subtle nod to how language barriers arise from diverse origins. There's also a subtle indication of Richard Pigott here.
Pigott, the forger.
That's the one. The 19th century Irish journalist infamous for forging letters incriminating Parnell. He was caught famously by his misspelling of hesitancy as hesitancy.
Ah, the hesitancy misspelling.
So this links linguistic errors directly to historical deception, suggesting that even our understanding of history can be compromised by seemingly small missteps in language. Communication breakdown on multiple levels.
Fascinating. So after all these attempts fail, what does Mutt conclude?
After these utterly failed attempts, Mutt can only conclude, rather simply, "'tis a Jute."
Is a Jute, just like that.
Just like that. This declaration connects Jute directly to the Germanic tribe, further cementing his foreign or invader status against Mutt, who, by contrast, is perhaps the native, the one indigenous to this ancient primordial land.
So it immediately sets up that core conflict, native versus invader.
Right. This simple phrase highlights the immediate cultural and ethnic divide between the two figures, a divide that reverberates through centuries of Irish history.
And this brings us to stuttering, which you mentioned as a core motif. Mutt says, I became a stummer. What does Joyce want us to understand through this? It feels significant.
Oh, incredibly significant. This is where it gets really rich and deeply symbolic. Mutt first identifies himself as only an utterer.
An utterer. Like someone who speaks.
Well, yes, but it's a brilliant double meaning. It refers not just to someone who speaks, but also significantly to one who passes counterfeit coin.
Counterfeit coin. So unreliable speech, maybe.
Exactly. Unreliable narrator, counterfeit language. Then he declares quite poignantly, I became a stummer, a mute, a stammerer. Our sources make it clear that stuttering is a fundamental recurring motif in Finnegans Wake. Joyce uses it deliberately in characters like Mutt to represent a vast range of things, from the very genesis of language to the lingering, profound effects of trauma. It's not simply a speech impediment here.
Okay, so multiple layers to the stuttering. Where does Vico come into this?
Right, Vico, the philosopher Giambattista Vico, whose cyclical theory of history heavily influenced Joyce. Vico apparently claimed first men moved from muteness to stuttering in imitation of the thunder, God's voice.
Imitating thunder.
Wow. Yeah. So for Vico and by extension Joyce, stuttering isn't just a malfunction. It has this primal, even divine origin, linking it to the very beginnings of human speech and the awe-inspiring, overwhelming forces of nature. It's like the human attempt to articulate the ineffable, to mimic the raw power of the divine.
So it's almost like the first language was a stammer, a response to something overwhelming and maybe terrifying.
That's one interpretation, yes, a kind of awestruck, broken speech.
But Mutt attributes his own stuttering to a traumatic experience or a battle. That connects it to a very different kind of origin, more personal, more psychological.
Absolutely. And that's the other crucial layer. Mutt himself links his stuttering directly to a traumatic experience or a battle. This aligns powerfully with psychiatric theories, especially from the 19th and early 20th centuries. Our sources note Joyce consulted works like Chervin's Begamo, which explored the links between the onset of stuttering and traumatic events, things like jumping from a burning house or being locked up.
So real psychological trauma causing a breakdown in speech.
Exactly. This provides a deeply human psychological depth to Mutt's condition, grounding the abstract linguistic phenomenon in very real personal suffering. And what's even more powerful and quite specific to Joyce's time is that critical commentary explicitly connects Mutt's symptoms. I became a stummer to shell shock, a term first identified and named in World War I.
Shell shock. Wow. So linking this ancient scene directly to WWI trauma.
Precisely. This directly grounds the abstract linguistic phenomenon in very real historical trauma, drawing a clear line from a primitive ancient battle to the horrific psychological scars of modern warfare. It's a profound way of suggesting that the echoes of trauma, whether personal or collective, resonate across millennia, altering our very ability to communicate and shape our understanding of the world.
That's incredibly powerful, linking ancient trauma to modern shell shock through stuttering. And then Jude, rather strangely, briefly stutters too. What a horrible thing. Is that just mockery, or is there something deeper at play there? He seems to be mimicking Mutt.
That's a fantastic observation, and it leads to another layer of meaning. Shervin, the expert on stuttering Joyce consulted, explained this phenomenon as occurring par une sorte de contagion morale.
A moral contagion.
Yeah, a kind of moral contagion. So Jute's stuttering could be an involuntary imitation, almost like catching the trauma or confusion from Mutt.
Like catching a yawn, but with trauma?
Sort of. Or it could be a form of mockery, which is also quite plausible given their antagonistic setup. Either way, it emphasizes the infectious nature of trauma, confusion, and even linguistic fragmentation.
So it spreads.
Right. It suggests that difficulties in communication and the scars of conflict aren't isolated. They can spread from one individual to another, even across vast cultural divides, blurring the lines between victim and perpetrator, native and invader.
So the very act of communication between them is broken, scarred by history and trauma. That leads us directly, then, to the source of Mutt's trauma, which he connects to a battle. The dialogue then unfurls this rich tapestry of historical conflicts, merging ancient Irish lore with devastating modern wars. It's incredible how many layers Joyce packs into what seems like a simple exchange about a battle. Clontarf alone is just a marvel of compression, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and it's a prime example of Joyce's linguistic genius and his, well, often irreverent approach to history. Mutt speaks of the inns of Clontarf where used ought to be he.
Clontarf?
Yeah, Clontarf is a deliberate, wonderfully audacious corruption of Clontarf, a hugely famous battle site in Irish history.
Clontarf, 1014, Brian Boru.
Exactly. Clontarf means bull meadow. By changing it to Clontarf, Joyce injects humor and a sardonic tone, making it mean something closer to, well, bullshit.
Okay, he's definitely puncturing the heroic balloon there.
Completely. He's deconstructing and undermining the heroic narrative even as he invokes it. The Battle of Clontarf in 1014 was pivotal, yes. High King Brian Boru famously defeated the Danish army, effectively ending Viking power in Ireland.
But he died himself, didn't he?
He did, tragically killed shortly after the battle. This conflict is often framed as dark warring against fair, with the Danes frequently referred to as dark strangers in Irish lore. But Joyce complicates this immediately.
How so?
Well, what's fascinating about Brian Boru's portrayal here is that he's presented not just as a national hero, but also potentially as a usurper for ending the O'Neill clan dynasty.
Ah, complicating the hero narrative.
Always. This is a typical Joycean move, refusing simple, straightforward historical interpretations and reminding us that history is often written by the victors and heroes can be seen very differently depending on perspective.
So Joyce isn't letting us settle for a simple heroic tale, even with a figure like Brian Boru. He's introducing that ambiguity. And Mutt clearly remembers this battle, trembling with wrath, it seems.
Indeed. Mutt expresses his enduring, visceral memory of this battle, stating he trumples from wrath in my minds when I remember him.
Remember him.
Yeah.
That sounds like remembering, but also trembling.
Exactly. He trembles from wrath in his mind, remembering Brian Boru, who is seen as an HCE avatar, the ever-present, ever-falling central figure of the Wake. This line is also a subtle nod to Thomas More's patriotic war song, Remember the Glories of Brian the Brave.
Okay.
And further still, wrath means subtly alludes to a district of Dublin that was the site of a disastrous defeat for Irish forces in 1649, layering multiple historical Irish conflicts into a single tremor of memory.
Wow. Clontarf, Brian Boru, the O'Neills, Thomas More, wrath means. It's an incredibly dense compression of history and emotion.
It really is. And it's not just Irish history. There are hints of other conflicts, too. Mutt talks about exchanging strong verbs about bloody creeks.
Bloody creeks. Sounds messy.
It does. The phrase directly refers to about the bloody Greeks, perhaps the Trojan War, but also potentially the Battle of Bloody Creek, 1711 in North America. But in the wider context, it just evokes the general carnage of war, the bloodiness of it all.
Right, and you mentioned WWI imagery earlier, tying into the shell shock idea. Where else does that surface?
It surfaces quite strongly. The sources explicitly state that Mutt and Jute are remembering, along with Waterloo, the battles of WWI with its fire defenses, piles of bones, and bloody creeks.
Fire defenses.
Yes, think of the phrase fire defenses and crawls of slit-sucked marrow bones. Fire defenses vividly invokes the fire step in WWI trench warfare, the place soldiers stood to shoot.
Oh, okay, fire step.
And crawls, that Afrikaans word again, means cattle pens, referencing the Boer War, suggesting enclosed areas where bones might pile up, the image of Neanderthals cracking and sucking marrow bones.
From the description of Jute earlier.
Exactly. It connects this primeval scene directly to the detritus of modern warfare, the piles of bones, highlighting the enduring, cyclical nature of human violence. It's a gut-wrenching link between the primitive and the industrialized horror of war.
Showing that maybe not much has fundamentally changed about conflict.
That seems to be the implication. The fundamental experience of conflict remains the same, regardless of the technology involved.
That brings it into such sharp, painful focus. And then there's even a specific and profoundly moving allusion mentioned in the sources to the Chorley pals. Sounds particularly tragic.
It is absolutely devastating. The mention of Chorley Guy is interpreted as a specific and deeply poignant allusion to the Chorley Pals, one of those WWI Pals brigades.
Where men from the same town signed up together.
Exactly. With the horrific consequence that entire communities could suffer near total liquidation of their young men in a single battle, like on the Somme. Joyce uses these specific human tragedies to underscore the enduring horrific cost of conflict throughout history, from the Stone Age right up to the modern era.
It reminds us that behind every grand battle narrative are countless personal stories of loss.
Exactly. And the reverberations of that loss ripple through generations. Joyce also anchors these conflicts not just in abstract history, but in specific geographical landmarks, blending ancient mythology with Dublin's physical reality. Like Mutt's instruction, he can posture us the pillory way to Hercules Pillar.
Hercules Pillar.
Hercules, yes. It combines the ancient mythology of the Pillars of Hercules at Gibraltar with specific Dublin landmarks. Nelson's Pillar, which was a central point in Dublin opposite the GPO, makes the journey geographically specific.
Right, Nelson's Pillar. Gone now, of course.
Gone now, yes. And the pillory way adds a sense of punishment or public disgrace, suggesting a hard road or a journey through suffering. It's a journey not just through space, but through layers of historical meaning, often tied to struggle and punishment.
That's such a brilliant way to merge the mythological with the intimately local. And Jute's line, one Eigenblack, is another striking, almost cinematic image. What's that about?
It truly is striking. One Eigenblack is a remarkable double allusion according to the sources. It refers to Harold, the last Anglo-Saxon king of England.
Harold Godwinson.
That's him. Being shot in the eye at the Battle of Hastings in 1066, a pivotal moment of defeat and the end of an era in English history.
Okay, Hastings.
But it also, very poignantly, refers to Joyce himself, who for a period during the composition of Finnegans Wake had severe eye troubles and wore an eye patch.
Ah. So Joyce is putting himself into the text there.
It seems so. This merges personal suffering with grand historical defeat, making the individual's experience a mirror for collective trauma. It's a characteristic Joycean move to collapse the personal and the historical into a single resonant and often painful image.
It's incredible how these characters and conflicts are so deeply embedded in the very landscape and history of Dublin. Even coins become part of the story, giving a tangible economic layer to these ancient narratives.
You've hit on a crucial point there. Joyce anchors his universal themes in the specific tangible details of Dublin, making the city itself a character, not just a backdrop. The economic exchanges and geographical features are integral to the unfolding narrative, adding layers of local color and historical depth.
So talk about the coins. Jute offers Mutt something.
Yes, the discussion of coins is particularly rich with meaning and historical context. Jute tries to calm Mutt down by offering him Sylvan coin, a piece of oak, and declares, "Guineas highs, good for you."
Sylvan coin. Like silver coin. Or wooden coin.
Both, probably. Sylvan coin evokes both silver coin and wooden coin from the Sylvan Woods. This immediately brings to mind William Wood's coins, also known as Wood's halfpence.
Ah, Swift's Drapier's letters, the controversial copper coins.
Exactly. A controversial Irish currency introduced in the 1720s that many Irish people, notably Jonathan Swift, considered worthless and an insult. The phrase wooden nickel, an Americanism for a worthless counterfeit coin, is also probably referenced here.
So issues of value, authenticity.
Right, pervasive issues of value and authenticity that permeate both economic and narrative exchanges in Ireland. Furthermore, coin and livery refers to an ancient Irish Brehon law practice where chiefs could quarter their soldiers on the local populace.
Like a tax in kind.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Linking currency to historical social structures and even forms of colonial imposition.
So even the offer of a coin is loaded with centuries of economic and political baggage. Just amazing.
Precisely, and Guinea's High's good. What's that?
Ah, that's a clever pun on Guinness, the iconic Dublin stout. Of course. Guinness is good for you.
Right. And the guinea, a British coin. This masterfully intertwines Irish culture and British economic influence, showing how deeply intertwined these forces are. Mutt then recognizes the great cloak of Cedric Silkyshag, more historical figure.
Yes, this refers to Harold Greycloak, a 10th century king of Norway, and Sihtric Silkenbeard, the Danish leader at Clontarf, whose coins are still preserved. Sihtric Silkenbeard.
Okay. The image of Brian Boru, the victor of Clontarf, often depicted wearing a bearskin, bitskin cloak, further intertwines these historical figures with their physical representation on currency, suggesting how history is literally stamped onto the very means of exchange.
History is money, almost.
In a way, even the Dublin bar, the sandbar at the mouth of the Liffey, serves as a bar slang for £1 sterling, making the geography of Dublin itself a site of economic value and exchange.
It's astounding how Dublin becomes this living repository of history, economics, and culture. Beyond the currency, how does the city's physical landscape play into this section? You mentioned Howth Head earlier.
Oh, Dublin's evolving landscape is a constant, almost breathing presence throughout the Wake. Features like Howth Head, that prominent promontory marking the northern boundary of Dublin Bay, and the Sutton Isthmus, the narrow neck of land connecting Howth Head to the mainland, are crucial geographical features.
The isthmus, a neck of land.
Exactly. From the Greek ismos. It physically embodies the idea of a connection point, a place of convergence and division, a bottleneck where history accumulates. This area was also historically a site of raids during the Battle of Clontarf, reinforcing its role as a nexus of conflict and movement.
So the land itself holds the memory of conflict.
Very much so. The Liffey River flowing through Dublin and its numerous tributaries are often named, like the Poddle River, which runs partly underground through Dublin. Specific districts and landmarks pepper the text. Rathmines, Baldoyle, Raheny.
Familiar Dublin places.
Right. And Selbridge, known for its Church of the Bridge on the Liffey. Even the Dunsink Observatory, a scientific landmark, finds its place, suggesting that even abstract knowledge is rooted in a physical location. Phoenix Park, one of Europe's largest enclosed urban parks, is mentioned not only for its historical significance, but also for its name's derivation from Irish Fiannuis, meaning clear water.
Fiannuis, clear water.
Which was then anglicized, perhaps mistakenly, to Phoenix, suggesting rebirth and renewal within a natural setting, a constant cycle of transformation built into the name itself.
That's fascinating. A mishearing becomes meaningful.
Typical Joyce. The turnpike system, the old Dublin turnpike roads, including one in Chapter1, are invoked as part of the historical infrastructure, reflecting the economic and logistical networks of the city. And then there's Adam and Eve's Church, a Roman Catholic church in Dublin with a fascinating history.
Adam and Eve's. Tell me about that.
Well, its popular name apparently comes from the fact that secret masses were held in a tavern there called Adam and Eve during penal times.
Tavern Church.
Right. This connects to Joyce's own aunts, who were sopranos there, demonstrating how places carry layers of sacred and profane history intertwined with personal and family narratives. Dublin isn't just a setting, it's a living, breathing entity within the Wake, a character itself, carrying the weight of all these layers of human experience.
It's incredible to see the city as such a dense, living text. Okay, so as Jute takes his leave, apparently fed up with Mutt's obscure language and increasingly profound pronouncements.
Yeah, he seems to just give up on understanding him.
Right. Mutt enters into this poignant, almost elegiac monologue. Here, the immediate conflicts seem to broaden into a meditation on universal themes. Death, memory, the cyclical nature of existence. It's a profound shift.
That's exactly right. It moves from the specific clash to something much bigger. The discussion of the fall here takes on multiple, profound dimensions. Jude's earlier comment about taciturn pretells, our wrong story shortener, he dumptied the whole barrow of rubbages onto soil here.
Dumping rubbish.
Directly references the Humpty Dumpty nursery rhyme and its potent themes of a great fall and irretrievable shattering.
Humpty Dumpty, of course. The Great Fall.
Exactly. This is absolutely central to the Wake's foundational myth, the idea of a catastrophic event that breaks everything apart. This imagery connects directly to the Great Fall of the Wall, and specifically the fall of Finnegan, the solid man who, once fallen, cannot be put back together again.
Like Humpty.
Precisely. The egg tentacle spot where he was poached is also a direct nod to Humpty Dumpty as an egg, further cementing this motif of cosmic breakage and fragmentation.
So it's not just a physical fall, but a universal principle of disintegration, of things breaking apart.
Exactly. The term Humpty itself refers to something humpbacked and shattered beyond repair, something broken. And Mutt's image of his Humpty Hill head sending inquiring one well to the west in quest of his Tumty-Tum toes.
Searching for his toes.
Yeah. It's a vivid, almost comical, but deeply poignant image of a disoriented, fallen body searching for its fragmented parts. It's a metaphor for humanity searching for its lost past, its scattered history, trying to piece itself back together. This leads Mutt to a truly profound statement on the cyclical nature of Earth and humanity. And Thanasestros mound have swallowed them all. This arth of years is not save brick dust, and being humus, the same returns.
Okay, unpack that. Thanasestros mound. Death mound.
Pretty much. It speaks to the ancestral mound, swell up or swollen with the dead, thanatos, meaning death. It implies that death is a constant consuming force, that all lives eventually return to the earth, feeding the mound.
Right.
The earth itself, our earth of years, is described as nothing but brick dust. And as humus, everything eventually returns to the same state.
Dust to dust.
Exactly. It immediately evokes the biblical phrase, dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return, reinforcing the idea of a universal, inescapable cycle of life, death, and decay. It's a humbling reminder of our place in the grand scheme.
And that line, he who runes may read it on all fours. That implies a very fundamental, almost animalistic truth, doesn't it? Like you have to get down low to understand it.
It does. He who runes may read it on all fours suggests that those who run can read this truth, implying an intuitive understanding, maybe an ancient wisdom, but on all fours also evokes a child or a beast.
Primal understanding.
Emphasizing the primal, fundamental truth of this cycle that can be understood at the most basic level of existence. It also subtly references the four-stage Viconian cycle of history, again, rise, fall, chaos, return, perhaps, suggesting you need to get down to the earth like an animal or child to truly grasp this cyclical reality.
Okay, and that earlier image of Jute having dumped the whole barrow of rubbages onto soil here, you said that implies a midden dump.
Exactly, a literal refuse heap, a place where all historical rubbish, all past events, discarded narratives, forgotten lives accumulates.
History is a garbage heap. Cheerful.
Well, yes, but also potentially generative. From this midden, new things might spontaneously emerge, like the unexpected orange peels mentioned elsewhere in the Wake. It's a powerful metaphor for history itself, a continuous process of accumulation, decay, and unpredictable regeneration.
So things grow out of the rubbish heap.
Potentially, it's a vast recycling bin for all human experience, where nothing is truly lost, only transformed and reshaped into something new.
Okay, that's a slightly more hopeful spin. So Mutt is standing there, contemplating this desolate historical ground, seeing it as both a grave and a refuse heap, a place of universal return. And from this deep contemplation, he utters this incredible line, this truly breathtaking piece of language that we really wanted to focus on today. Countlessness of live stories have nether fallen by this plage, flick as flowflakes, litters from aloft, like a waste wizard all of whirlwords. Okay, let's unpack this, because this feels like the very heart of our deep dive. What does this all mean? It feels huge.
You've perfectly captured the essence of it. It is huge. This single line is, without exaggeration, a condensed epic of human experience, history, and the very nature of language itself. It's where Joyce's genius truly shines, showing us how he captures and represents the overwhelming flood of human narrative. Mutt is describing the sheer, incomprehensible volume of the dead, the countless stories that are lost, transformed, and yet somehow miraculously preserved or echoed in time. This is the absolute core of what Finnegans Wake is trying to achieve, I think.
Okay, let's take it piece by piece. Countlessness of live stories have nether fallen by this plage.
Right. Countlessness of live stories. That's fairly clear. It refers to the innumerable individual narratives, the personal histories of all those who have lived and died on this spot or on any similar historical ground, just an unimaginable number. Netherfallen is a powerful Joycean fusion. It combines fallen down from the German niederfallen with nether, meaning lower or pertaining to the underworld.
So fallen down into the earth, into the underworld.
Exactly. It implies a descent into the earth, a burial, a passage into the realm of the dead. It suggests not just a physical fall, but a profound, almost spiritual subsidence into history.
So these live stories aren't just gone. They've literally fallen into the underworld of the earth, become part of the soil. And then by this plage, it sounds like it has a double meaning too, doesn't it? Plage, beach, plague.
It absolutely does, and it's a crucial duality. Plage can mean beach from the French, or plague from the German.
So a place of death, either way.
Pretty much. This isn't just a generic spot. It's a place where bodies have fallen, a battlefield, a cemetery, a desolate shore. But it's also a place marked by disease and mass death. One of our sources specifically connects this to Moyelta, the old plain of Elta, where the Partholonians died of plague and were buried.
The Partholonians, legendary early invaders of Ireland.
Right. So it's a specific historical plague of mass death, making it a literal and metaphorical ground saturated with lost lives. It's a desolate, sacred, and frankly terrifying place.
Okay, so countless stories have fallen into this death place. Then flick as flowflakes. What's going on there?
Now, flick as flowflakes. This phrase is incredibly rich and evocative. On one level, it simply means thick as snowflakes, hinting at the sheer volume and the delicate, ephemeral nature of the fallen lives or stories.
Flick. Like thick, but also maybe quick light.
Exactly. Flick suggests a light, quick movement, but it also carries the sense of thick. And flowflakes can refer to foam flakes, the saltwater flakes left by the tides connecting to the ocean and the cyclical nature of water, or literally snowflakes, emphasizing their transient beauty and how they cover everything.
Snowflakes. Ephemeral, unique, but blending together.
Precisely. But here's where it truly gets poignant and specific, connecting to something much more modern. Our sources reveal that this phrase specifically evokes the annual Armistice Day commemoration in London's Royal Albert Hall.
Armistice Day. Remembrance Day.
Yes, where approximately 1 million poppy petals, one for each English soldier killed in WWI, are dropped from its ceiling, settling flick as flowflakes.
Wow. 1 million poppy petals. Falling like snowflakes.
Think about that image for a moment. 1 million red petals, each representing a lost life, softly falling, like a gentle, sorrowful snowstorm inside that vast hall. It's a heart-piercing image.
It really is.
Connecting this ancient, primordial battlefield directly to modern remembrance and the countless dead of one devastating war to the fallen of all time. The earlier mention of the round word of albutile subtly references the circular shape of Albert Hall, further solidifying this profound, almost spiritual connection.
So the ancient dead and the modern dead become one image, falling like petals or snowflakes.
Exactly. It's a global, collective remembrance of the uncounted dead, falling like ephemeral petals, each representing a unique, lost life, now part of a larger, overwhelming mass.
That's a truly breathtaking image when you grasp at the sheer anonymous volume of the dead throughout history, falling like countless delicate petals of remembrance, each representing a lost life. It collapses the personal tragedy of one war into the universal sorrow of all human conflict. Okay? And then litters from aloft.
Yes, litters from aloft. Litters here implies both discarded pieces of paper, waste, or rubbish.
Like the midden dump again?
Right, but also letters, written communications, fragments of stories, documents. It suggests fragmented information, broken narratives, or incomplete documents falling from above, perhaps from the sky or from the hands of time itself.
So scraps of stories falling down.
Exactly. This reinforces the idea of history as an accumulation of scattered, often incomplete records and narratives, much like those scattered poppy petals. These are the broken, forgotten pieces of past lives, falling down, slowly disintegrating, to become part of the earth, part of the historical midden dump we discussed earlier.
Okay, and finally the line culminates with, like a waste wizard, all of whirlwords. This sounds like pure Joyce.
It really does. This is a quintessential Joycean coinage, and for me, the most powerful part. Waste is a beautiful Joycean blend. It means vast.
Huge.
But also was, which is Dutch for haze, mist, or fog.
Vast and hazy.
Mystery. Exactly. So it's a vast, hazy, mysterious entity, something grand but indistinct. Wizard obviously means a wizard, a magical figure.
Magic.
But it also cleverly suggests a blizzard, linking back to the snowflakes, and the idea of a severe snowstorm and overwhelming chaotic force.
A magical blizzard.
And whirlwords is the heart of it. It means swirling words, but it also carries the echo of whirlworlds, worlds that whirl or spin in a chaotic dance.
So it's a vast, hazy, magical blizzard of spinning worlds and words. What is Joyce synthesizing here? What is this wizard?
The synthesis of these elements is utterly breathtaking. The wasp withered all of whirlwords is a powerful personification of the overwhelming, often chaotic, and endlessly generative force of language and history itself. It's as if all the life stories, all those countless individual lives falling like snowflakes or forgotten letters, don't just disappear into the mud. Instead, they coalesce, they transform into this vast, misty, magical entity made entirely of swirling, interlocking words.
So the stories become words.
Yes. This, in a very real sense, is Finnegans Wake itself. A vast, hazy, swirling world of language that contains all stories, all histories, all human experience, continuously reforming and dissolving, a dizzying, all-encompassing image of the text's own ambition and nature.
The book is the Wizard of Whirlwords.
Arguably, yes. It's the idea that all of human experience ultimately becomes language, constantly in motion, constantly being reinterpreted, swirling around us. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this line vividly captures the transformation of individual human lives into the collective, often indistinct, mass of history. The legend of the Bay de Trépassé, the Bay of the Dead, mentioned earlier in the pages, as the flux unites them, the reflux separates them.
Like the tide washing souls in and out.
Exactly. It emphasizes this ebb and flow of souls, the merging and dissolving of individual identities into a larger anonymous whole, like waves on a shore. The distinct identities of sweet and brack, fresh and salty, perhaps different races, perhaps just opposites, merge and dissolve into the earth, their individual narratives lost to the collective.
Everyone becomes part of the mix.
Right, and Mutt concludes this profound thought with, "Now are all tombed to the mound. Ises to ises, Airden from Aird."
Ice to ice, earth to earth.
Precisely. It powerfully echoes the solemn ashes to ashes, dust to dust from burial services. Ises, which can mean Old English for ice, but also Gaelic for water, and Aird, the German word for earth, suggests a return to fundamental elemental forms. It's a profound reflection on the impermanence of individual life, the sheer accumulation of death over time, and the way these countless lives are eventually absorbed into the larger swirling narratives of time and language, ultimately becoming the very whirlwords of history that form and reform around us.
That's such a haunting, yet somehow beautiful image, all those lies and stories swirling into this vast, hazy wizard made of words. It brings us back, though, to the Viking ground mentioned earlier, doesn't it?
Oh.
And the very specific place where they're actually standing. This isn't just any ground, it's loaded with meaning.
It absolutely does. Mutt brings his profound elegiac monologue to a very pointed conclusion, revealing the specific nature of the ground they are standing on, and leading to Jute's final, thunderstruck realization. Mutt clarifies that this isn't just any desolate shore or historical midden. He tells Jute, with solemn finality, "Here is Viking's grave."
Viking's grave, Viking's grave.
Exactly, Viking's grave. This reinforces that this ground is a burial site, an ancient barrow, a sacred space saturated with the past. The reference to Ibsen's play, The Viking's Barrow, further solidifies this connection, making it a place of deep historical and literary weight. It also connects to the how, a dialect term for a tumulus or barrow, and the thingmote, the Norse parliament site in Dublin during the Viking occupation, all of which Jute had mentioned or been connected to earlier, perhaps without fully realizing. This ground is not just layered earth, it's a layered grave, a repository of ancient foundational history.
So, Jute, who has been mostly unresponsive or confused this whole time, finally gets hit with the full impact of what Mutt is saying. He's thunderstruck, thing mud. What's happening in that moment? Sounds dramatic.
It's the climatic moment of the whole exchange, really. Jute, who is initially oblivious to the full, profound significance of Mutt's pronouncements, is now thunderstruck thing mud. He is thunderstruck, not just surprised, but experiences a profound, almost mythical shock that shatters his previous incomprehension. Thunderstruck directly invokes Thor, the Norse god of thunder, and crucially links to Ragnarok, the Norse mythological concept of a cataclysmic series of events, including a great battle in which many gods will die, after which the world will begin anew. He had dismissed it earlier as Rotterdam rotter, like Rotterdam rubbish, but now the truth strikes him.
Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods.
Wow. Exactly. This connection to Ragnarok is incredibly significant. It provides a cosmic framework for the entire conversation, elevating it from a local dispute between two primitive men to an event of universal cyclical significance. The twilight of the gods signifies not just an ending, but a rebirth, where the old world is destroyed to make way for the new. The Thingmote, the Norse Parliament site in Dublin, also referenced by Thingmud, connects this mythical, world-ending event directly to Viking history and governance in Ireland.
So it's the specific local history of Viking Dublin suddenly revealing its cosmic, universal implications. The end of the world happening right there in the mud.
Pretty much. It's a truly epic conclusion to their dialogue. From the specific local battles and the stuttering, confused communication between two primitive men, the conversation expands exponentially to encompass the universal cycles of death, rebirth, and the very end of worlds, all anchored in the historical ground beneath their feet. Absolutely staggering. It's a powerful testament to Joyce's ability to imbue every detail with immense layered meaning, making this short section a microcosm of the entire Wake's ambition.
Definitely. It's a moment of profound revelation, not just for Jute, but for us, the readers, as we grasp the vast, interconnected web of history and language Joyce is weaving.
So what does this all mean for us then, taking this deep dive into these few pages of Finnegans Wake? We've delved into Stone Age men, ancient battles, the genesis of stuttering, Viking graves, Ragnarok, and ultimately this profound vision of all live stories swirling into a Weist wizard all of worldwords. It's a lot to take in, but feels so incredibly rich.
It is rich. This deep dive truly reveals the incredible density and interconnectedness of Joyce's writing, doesn't it? It shows us how individual lives and historical moments are compressed, transformed, and endlessly recycled within the larger narrative of humanity and language. It's a powerful reminder that history isn't just a linear series of facts. It's a continuous, often hazy accumulation of stories and experiences, like that midden dump.
The individual narratives, no matter how countless, ultimately contribute to a vast, swirling tapestry, both lost and miraculously preserved or echoed in the worldwords of our collective memory and language. It's about finding the universal in the particular and recognizing the cyclical nature of all things, from the rise and fall of civilizations to the stuttering genesis of speech, maybe even to our own everyday conversations. It truly encourages us to look at the seemingly mundane and find the epic, the cosmic.
And that's why this text, despite its notorious challenge, is so endlessly rewarding, isn't it? It forces us to engage with language and history in a completely new way, to see the connections that are always there if we only look and listen closely. It's like a shortcut to being not just well-informed, but deeply immersed in the very fabric of human experience, understanding how our own stories fit into this grand, bewildering, and beautiful narrative.
Indeed, it encourages critical thinking, questioning assumptions, and embracing multiple perspectives on history and identity. The knowledge gained here isn't just abstract, it's most valuable when understood and applied, encouraging you, our listener, to maybe see the flow flakes in your own daily world words.
The flow flakes in the world words. I like that.
Yeah, the subtle, often overlooked stories and connections that shape your own world. It invites you to be a more active participant in interpreting the continuous, flowing narrative around you, recognizing your own place within that vast wizard.
A fantastic way to put it. And on that thought, perhaps we leave you with this to ponder. If all our life stories ultimately become world words, absorbed into the vast, hazy narrative of time, what kind of Weist wizard are we, individually and collectively, contributing to right now with every word we speak, every story we tell, and every memory we share? Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. It's been absolutely fascinating. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep an ear out for the echoes and the world words all around you.